Well, Jerry Reed, we have a long way to go and a short time to get there on this morning's edition of Our Town, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. Cross country is a pretty big deal in these necks of the woods. We'll have 6 area teams competing in Fort Dodge this weekend. We'll preview it from a south wind, a Crestwood, a Waukon, and a Decorah perspective. This weekend is the annual Holiday Craft and Bake Sale at the Decorah High School. We'll talk to Jason Rausch about that. And a Veterans Day program coming up on November 11th, and a deadline related to that program coming up tomorrow. We'll chat with Brad Hurst, the high school principal at Decorah. He'll be our first guest on Our Town this morning. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. Coming up on November 11th, the Decorah High School will host a Veterans Day breakfast and program. And here to chat about that event is Decorah High School Principal Brad Hurst. First time we've gotten to talk to him on Our Town. Brad, thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
And before we get into the specifics of the event itself, how important is it from an educational standpoint to have an event like this to show appreciation to those that served our country?
I think it's of the utmost importance. I remember a few years ago, we had a Veterans Day message where it was talking about just the right to sit in a chair and be at school. And really, it kind of refers to like a real world story of a teacher that had basically removed all the desks from their classroom, and kids would walk in and, class by class, she would ask the kids, like basically like who's earned the right to sit in the chair. The essence of it was none of this would be possible. Schools wouldn't be here, communities wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the work of our veterans in multiple wars to protect our freedoms. And so we owe indebted gratitude to them that we can never repay. And the program that we offer here is just kind of a small token of appreciation of how everything that they've given for us.
And the program will take place on Veterans Day itself, which is Monday, November 11th. But from what I understand, an essential part of this program is the Wall of Veterans that gets put together by Decorah High School students. And there's a deadline coming up to get your family member's picture on that wall, correct?
Correct. So we've sent out some communication also in our press release. It's going to be due on the Friday, November 1st. If you've ever been to our program, there's actually a part of the program that happens before the program in the auditorium, where we have breakfast and coffee for veterans and their families. And one of the really kind of cool components of all of that is truly a wall of veterans. And Denise Goldroot, our secretary, works a lot of hours to put that together. And literally it's, pictures, service pictures, everything that people have submitted over the years that just kind of makes you really take it all in terms of like just how many different people have been involved, even just locally in our community. And so to that point, if there are people that maybe haven't submitted photos or images and have local family members that have served, we encourage them to send those photos directly to Denise Goldroot, and she can work to either, if they're hard copies, to make scans or print them off, or actual, however you'd like to do it, digital images, and make sure that those veterans and their families can also see that service honored on our wall as well.
Can that be done by dropping them off, by mail, by email? What way do you prefer?
It really is done in all different ways. It kind of depends a lot on what people have available. Some people may only have original copies, and so we can kind of make copies of those from old photographs. Some people that may be more digitally savvy or have already done that can send those via email. But we can truly make anything work, and really we have a lot of different flexibilities when it comes to that. And we don't want that to be any kind of barrier. Whatever people can provide us, we can convert that into something that can go up on the wall.
And the deadline to submit those is Friday of this week. Let's go to the program itself on Monday, November 11th. Who is invited to this program?
Really, we'll have veterans and their families. So any local veterans that would like to attend are probably the most important guests of the whole thing. And so there'll be typically a decent contingent of veterans. We have seating that we have made and set aside for them. We have a variety of different options. I know some of our veterans and their families may have a more difficult time moving around. And so we do have some seating available for those that are more physically limited, as well as just general seating for anybody that wants to come. Of course, our students are there, our faculty are there, and they're there, and it's a really cool opportunity for them as well, just to see those veterans in the audience. It really helps it, I think, sink in even more so, to see all the people that have given so that they can have the right to be there.
And what's the schedule of events for that day?
Yeah, so I've kind of got it pulled up. So I don't, if you see me looking up, I'm truly just looking at a program here.
I'm doing the same thing, so no judgment, Brett.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got three screens here, so I've got try to be prepared. So initially, we'll have the VFW will come in and they'll post the colors, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance will be recited by one of our students. Our concert choir will then perform the Star Spangled Banner under the direction of Mr. Rausch. We have another student that will read the Veterans Day Proclamation, which is issued, every year on Veterans Day by the President. We'll then have the choir perform another song. We'll have an introduction of a guest speaker. And then we'll have the concert band play the Armed Forces Salute. Follow that, I'll have a short message that I typically give, and then we'll play the taps. And then we'll have some more music. And then, of course, we'll kind of conclude our program, and we'll, usher out our veterans first, and then our students and faculty will go out after that.
Anything we're missing? Anything else you want to touch on about the Veterans Day program coming up on November 11th?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. One of the other things I pulled up today, my father actually passed away a few years ago, and he was a veteran in the U.S. Army and Vietnam War, helicopter mechanic and all those things. And, one of the things I think just, is I would say most everybody has a family member and or has served themselves. There are a ton of people in our community that have given and have served. And we invite all of those people to come. On a personal note, I'm very thankful for everything that they have given. And I just hope that our program that we do every year can shows a little bit of appreciation for everything that they've done.
Brad, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to tell us about the program. Hopefully this message getting out gets a few more photos in by the end of this week and a few more veterans to come to the high school on November 11th. Brad, thanks for the time, and thanks for putting on this program to honor those that have served us and have allowed us to live the lives that we do.
Thank you very much, Darren. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Brad Hurst, Decorah High School principal, Veterans Day program coming up on November 11th. Get your photos in to the Wall of Veterans by Friday. Back by popular demand, well, at least me and Jason's popular demand, the Rausch and Goop podcast is back. It's that time of year where we talk to Jason quite a bit. Coming up this weekend will be the 39th annual Northeast Iowa Holiday Craft and Bake Sale put on by the Decorah Performing Arts Boosters. And Jason, before we talk about the show itself, all state editions from a music perspective happened last weekend. And as usual, a lot of good news from Decorah kids performing awfully well, correct?
Yeah, I think we had 16 students here from the high school that were selected in band, orchestra, and in choir. It was just a really successful day. The kids seemed to be really pumped about what they did. And, we had like 50 some students there auditioning from Decorah. So it's just really awesome. We're competing against all these Cedar Rapids schools and Dubuque schools. So it's nice for us to have a really good showing with those large schools.
And part of the reason the music students and the arts students are so supported is the Decorah Performing Arts Boosters, and they're putting on the Holiday Craft and Bake Sale coming up this weekend. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, it's the time of the season here for the old craft show. It's November 2nd. Saturday, November 2nd, and it is from 9 o'clock until 4 o'clock. It's just one day, so you're going to want to make plans to get there and get all the best buys that you can early that day. We have 96 vendors, and that's very exciting. We have 3 rooms full of vendors. We have our cafeteria, our main gym, and our practice gym. This is a great time to get going on your holiday shopping, to find that unique gift for that unique member of your family. And you also can get holiday decorations, lots of homemade goods, soaps, lotions, decorations for your house for any time of the year. We got peak apples. We have apple cider donuts. It's really, really a feast of wonderful items to get. We also included in this year is some 8th grade students who have been making items and to help with their fundraising for their DC trip that they'll take this next summer. I've been told that there's also homemade goods from them, some painted hubcaps. So, whatever the kids find interest in and what their crafty selves can put together.
And it's free to get into the show, but you can purchase a raffle ticket. And if you win the raffle, you can win some cool stuff too, right?
Yeah, we're raffling off again this year a smart TV. I think it's like 55 or 60-inch TV. The chances are you can get $2 is for that raffle ticket, or you can get 3 for 5. And then you also can sign up when you arrive for a free door prize. So you can walk away with, just by putting your name down, you can walk away with a prize.
And I know this is the 39th annual Northeast Iowa Holiday Craft and Bake Sale. I know the Performing Arts Boosters took this over a few years ago. I mean, this has been a long-standing show. I remember working it as a Decorah High School student back in the day. What keeps this show what it is in your mind?
Well, our students, like this Saturday, like all those students who auditioned for All State, um, they have their registration fees are all paid because of this craft show. It goes to support our music students at the high school. And because of our parent volunteers, because of our student volunteers, we are able to do this event. And we're just so grateful for all of those folks for giving of their time, helping park cars on Saturday morning, working the concession stand, greeting folks as they come in. We're just really fortunate to have probably 100 folks here helping us operate this event.
And how important is the Performing Arts Boosters to what you do from a music perspective, or everything related to fine arts at Decorah High School?
Yeah, it's just wonderful to know, and comforting to know that we have this whole group of parents who are willing to step forward and support us financially, support us with volunteers, to celebrate what the kids are doing, putting things out on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. It's just nice to know that we have not only our school administration that we can lean on when we need things, but we also can reach out to this parent group to support us. We refer to the boosters as putting the frosting on the cake, to take us to the next level in having great equipment, in having our students all be able to participate in these music contests without having to worry about a financial cost to the students. So, we really wouldn't be able to do what we do without their support.
Anything we're missing? Anything else folks need to know about the show coming up this weekend?
No, we just want to encourage you to come and support these vendors that come from all over Northeast Iowa and Minnesota and from Wisconsin. We need the people here to support these vendors, to purchase things from these vendors, so they want to come back again next year, so we can have another nearly 100 vendors here, so we can fill these 3 rooms, so we therefore can support our music students in the Decorah schools.
All right, give us one final invitation.
Yes. Saturday, November 2nd, 9 o'clock until 4 o'clock, Decorah High School. Come join us and have a good time shopping.
All right, Jason, we appreciate your time here this morning. Congrats on a great weekend from an all state perspective last weekend to most importantly, the students and everybody involved with the music program at Decorah High School. Thanks for the time as always, and best of luck with the show this weekend.
Appreciate it very much, Goob.
Jason Rausch, another edition of the Rausch and Goob podcast. For the 23rd time in school history and the second year in a row, the Decorah girls cross country team is heading to Fort Dodge this time of year. They finished second at the Waverly State Qualifier on Wednesday afternoon, and they will be heading to the state cross country meet. Head coach Cristy Nimrod joining us. And Cristy, what has made this a successful and a fun group to be around?
We have incredible senior leadership. So that's a big part of it, setting things up in the summer, team bonding wise, being involved, helping things. But really, it's been growth with the kids. We have 5 sophomore freshmen who are leading our top 5, followed by a junior and a senior. So it's been really a growth year, learning what you can do and starting to trust the system.
And when you talk about the team bonding, the team growth, I'd imagine the way you guys do things, you're talking a lot more than just the 7 that will toe the line next Friday, correct?
Oh, for sure. You never know at the beginning of the season what's going to happen by the end of the season. Lily Sandhorse getting hurt, who we expected to be a varsity runner. So things are changing pretty fast. But all summer long, we do a couple runs a week. And the majority of the kids show up pretty regularly. So there's a lot of time to get to know each other. By the first day of school, we want our freshmen to know everybody on the team. So when they walk down the hall, they feel comfortable here. And our kids just do an awesome job with that.
And you talked about the senior leadership, but only one senior was running on Saturday. How important was those other kids that weren't in the varsity lineup at the state qualifier in setting the tone for this team to be successful?
Oh, for sure. They started that early summer for sure, but all the time. We have 2 that got injured toward the end of the season, and they've been at practice every day since conference got over. So they are still providing leadership and doing great things for us.
And you went and raced at Waverly. Of course, you're familiar with over the years. What was key to having success in a talented field on Wednesday afternoon?
Trust. They had to trust in their training. They had to trust in each other. They had to pack it up. They had to push each other. And they did that. Not super concerned with the order of finish, but concerned with competing the whole way through. And they really did that. In that last 800 meters, they were passing people as they came in. It was fun to see that focus on their eyes the whole time.
And 5 of your 7 runners on Wednesday afternoon were freshmen or sophomores. There, you can talk about buying into the process. You can talk about what it takes to be successful to the first and the second year runners. There is the process of them going out and doing that. How were they able to do so?
We talked about truths a lot and how truth is we're in really good shape. Truth is we've worked really hard. Truth is we care about our team members, and they bought into that. And when things get hard, they go back to those truths, the things that they know for sure are there, and that helps support them as they go on.
And you have 3 runners that ran on Wednesday that did run at the state meet a year ago, and Olivia Volkman, Brinley Courtney, and Amelia Wadsworth. Are you going to rely on them a little bit to set the tone over the next week and a half?
For sure. Their knowledge, we looked through the course yesterday, and them being able to talk through the course was awesome. You know, here is something, and we have hills and we have flats and we have speed and we have tunnels and we have all of this. So their knowledge of the course is a helpful thing for the people who haven't been there before.
And last year, you guys were the second to last race at the state cross country meet, and I believe you're going to be the first race on Friday this year. How are you going to manage the logistics of getting out there and getting race ready on Friday morning?
We love to run in the morning. We practice every Friday morning, so that seems normal to us. We know that warm-ups have to be a little different to get the body ready, but we'll stay in Webster City on Thursday night which gives us bus time. So it's more normal. We wake up, we do that, and then we get to the course and perform the best that we can on that day.
For the runs that will be running at state for the first time, can you treat the state meet like a normal meet, or how much of it is getting them to embrace the moment and appreciating the fact that they earn the right to get there?
We talk about that also. It is a meet. It's still a 5K. That doesn't change. It's not suddenly a 6K or something like that. It's not something that we haven't done before. It's in a place we haven't been. But we also run some big meets during the year. The Luther All-American is similar to state. You have really quality teams. You have a lot of people there. You have a lot of energy there. It's run in the morning. So we have some experience doing that. So is it just another meet? Probably not. Do we treat it just like every other meet? Our warm-ups will look just like they do any other time. Our eating will be just like it is any other time. So yes and no.
And as you get ready for next Friday, I know I always got in trouble asking this question to Coach Landis back in the day. What's the key to having success? He'd always say left, right, left, right. But what's the key to putting your best foot forward and having as good of a day as you possibly can next Friday?
The girls went through and set some goals again. We did this before state qualifying and then yesterday again for state. And if they follow those things that they talked about, success will happen. And we can't control what other teams do. We're not going to beat Pella, right? There's things that are completely out of our control, but we can control how we perform ourselves. And the performances that we do will be at very high quality. I'm not concerned about that at all.
And you touched previously on speaking truce when goal setting for a state meet. How important is that?
Well, you need to have something to work toward, right? You need to know what you're trying to do. We don't talk about necessarily the outcomes. We talk about how we get there, the performance of what we're doing or what we need to do daily or each practice or whatever it is. It's a long time till we run. We don't want to think about just cross country between now and next Friday. They have tryouts for music tomorrow. They have variety show practice. They have all this stuff on top of school. So we want them to enjoy each thing that they're at. But when they're with us, our expectation is that they are committed to what we're doing and performing at a high level every time we see them.
All right, Coach, congrats on getting to another state meet, second year in a row, 23rd time in history, and I believe it's the 19th time or the 18th time since a four-class system was instituted in 2003. Congrats on a great season to this point. Best of luck to you as you get ready for Fort Dodge next week.
Thanks. It's been a great season, and I want to say how much I appreciate not only the girls that are on our team and how supportive they are, but how supportive our community is. Our parents are great. There were people at our meets that don't have a kid on our team, but they're still there supporting. So this community does a great job of supporting cross country in Decorah.
And that support is well deserved because it's historically one of the best programs in the state. Cristy Nimrod, head coach of the Decorah girls, as they get set for the state cross country meet next Friday. For the 39th time in school history, the Decorah boys cross country team is heading to the state meet next week. Head coach Brad Johansen here to join us to preview the state meet. And I know you know facts and figures pretty well. That 39 times tied for the most in school history, or state history, I should say. Do you know who you're tied with?
Cedar Falls.
Well done. As I am not shocked at all that you know that figure, but focusing on this year's team, Coach, what has made this year's team a successful group?
Well, if you look overall through the 47 guys in the team, the seniors did a great job leading, and everybody else was in or bought into what they were telling them, what they wanted them to do. I mean, we're coaches, we're coaching them up, but it's that voices off the side. I could be listening to a group where a senior's talking to the group, and it was just like I was talking through them, which tells me they did a really good job of listening in the previous 3 years and knew what needed to be said and knew how to, and they put their own spin on it, but they did a really good job. And then all the young guys just buy into that. And do what needs to happen to get better, and we improved.
And 5 of the 7 kids that towed the line at the Waverly State qualifier were seniors. How much did that experience help out in rising to the occasion and stepping up during that state qualifier?
Well, we're all about age structure here. For whatever reason, these Norwegian kids just don't develop early. They tend to develop a little later. So we just don't roll in freshmen and sophomores that just can do it. We just have to be patient and develop them. And now the seniors, for example, they look like young men. They don't look like little boys like they did 2 years ago. And they put the time and effort in. I mean, all that whole group was at a winter sport last winter. Everybody ran track in the spring. I mean, everybody just trained, and they continually got better, and they've been rewarded with tremendous times this season and a trip to Fort Dodge next week.
And when you look at the process of a cross country season, how much growth have you seen from the summer to the start of practice in August to now?
Well, I'll use this other group as an example. So this morning we had practice almost always on Friday mornings, and the 7 running the state meet, they had their own little workout they were doing without me. And there's about 9 or 10 guys that are still hanging around for practice. And we do this always when we go to state. On this day, we run repeat miles with those guys because they haven't really had a race this week. And then we run an all-out mile on the third one. Everything you got in the tank. Well, almost every one of them ran their lifetime best by a lot. And with, multiple under 5 minutes, all this stuff going on. Well, what they ran for miles to start the season in the first week of practice, they're 20 seconds faster than that. So you just know through that training, they're just going to get better. And one of the upperclassmen said to everybody as they broke down, now that you're all fit, your task is to maintain and keep your fitness through a winter so you just don't have this up and down thing. And that's the key to I would say, our long-term success, what we've always done. We've had kids that have gotten fit and then been active and stayed fit and just continued to grow and get better.
And qualifying out of that Waverly State qualifier which occurred just this week, I believe there was 4 top 10 teams at that qualifier, if I'm not mistaken. How does that maybe get you ready for the state meet?
Geez, that race was cooking. I mean, we were in such great position, and in Mount Vernon, I mean, they got beaten their conference meet the week before, but their number 3 runner didn't run in that race. So you take your number 3 out, and you're in a conference like the WAMAC, it's going to show. And he was back in there, and I knew the pace of that race would be very similar to the pace of the state meet, and it was, and it is. And all 3 of those teams are really high quality teams, us, Mount Vernon, and Clear Creek Amana. And they're all coached well and they run well. And it was a good practice run for what we're going to go through next Friday.
And I know as a team, you're back for the first time in a couple of seasons, but a kid like Grant Zilka ran at the state meet last year. Are you going to rely on Grant to maybe help show the guys the way of dealing with the bright lights of the Friday morning at Fort Dodge?
Well, the best part of, you love it when things work out right. So last year with Grant, I nerded out and I had graphed out. I did this a while ago. I graphed like 5 straight years of state meet runners to show people how runners fit in a race. And this curve looks the same every year. It shifts a little bit, but it's the same curve. And so I preached this to Grant. We had a race plan and he executed it last year perfectly. Well, they're all believers now because things went well for Grant, ran well. He can verify that the plan is correct. So that kind of it's great to have him had that experience because now that voice coming from him allows others to trust in that. And I'm not too worried about the bright lights because most of them ran at state track meet. So 5 of the 7 ran at state track. So they've been through that experience and that's a cooker there. And because they've been through it, I think we'll be in a good mental state and a good position to compete on Friday.
And when we talked on Wednesday afternoon, you talked about the good pack running that your team has the ability to. The 1 through 5 at Waverly, 21 seconds. The 1 through 7 at Waverly, 41 seconds. What allows that to happen?
Well, we spent a lot of time this year actually running in a fast pack at practice on purpose. And that concept that we can do this together, and it really has paid off. Now we're just running, we're all under 17 or can be under 17. And I would be shocked if there aren't 6 of them, way under 17 on Saturday, because they can really move it. But it's that work together. We've been doing it all season. There was 5 Saturdays where they kind of cruised at these steady state runs, as we like to call them, and they're kind of used to running really tight with each other, running fast, and that has paid off really well in our races.
Can you treat the state meet like any other meet?
Heck no. Soccer, this is a big kahuna, man. You got to expect there's going to be nerves, going to be butterflies. It's state championship. There's hardware on the line. I remember we used to try to say it was another meeting. I'm like, no, there is adrenaline pumping. Mike J's talking. Mike's talking about you. You can't help but be amped up. So we often talk about how you handle being amped up. And I'm not one to tell them to not be amped up. We just teach how to handle that emotion and how you use that properly and not to get too far over that curve. And if you're too far, to calm yourself down and, all that stuff. But you can't hide from the fact that this is the big one and this is where you want to be. And everybody there has the same goal in mind. They want the same 3 trophies.
And when you prepare for the meet from a coaching staff perspective, how much do you go about maybe handicapping the meet and looking at other teams to see where you potentially can fit?
You know me.
That's why I asked the question, Jay.
Yeah, some years I do a spreadsheet. This year I told myself not to do it, and I didn't do it. I forced myself to not do it. Don't do it. Just focus on you and your team and what they can do. And we had talked about earlier in the year, I knew we were going to be good, so I front loaded with them in August. What they had to run had to be their normal run. And normal run had to be the last 3 runs of the year. And that was the key. That time had to be established. We could do it over and over again. And we are doing that. So that if you could do that normal run, you had the opportunity then to take a time drop, and a pretty good one at the state meet. So 3A is loaded. It is absolutely positively loaded. And when Des Moines Christian came to 3A, I think they were the 2A champions last year, you just took loaded and made it even more loaded. So it's a fun class. Nothing given, everything earned in 3A. You got to go win this sucker. Nobody's backing off. It's all gas, no brakes.
And what are going to be the keys to getting ready for state meet when you look at today? And you mentioned you had practice this morning, but getting ready in the early portion of next week, what are you going to be focusing on?
Well, that old cliche, the hay's already in the barn. It is in the barn. So it's just right now about really being sharp, staying sharp, making sure we're at a 5K fitness level I'd rather be 99% trained than 101% trained. So we're just trying to stay at that 99 and not go over, because over leads to bad things happening. And they're a very mature group, and that's the nice part of the age structure. And they can handle the thought process about that and where we're at. And they recognize that they're already asking, Monday's going to be a little more challenging workout. Yes. And because they're like, we want one on Monday. And they know what they want. They know what they want leading up to a run. And we're so used to doing stuff Friday mornings that's just what we do. And it's normal.
You talk about being at 99 and not 101%. How do you determine where that line is?
I wish I could tell you there was some hard, fast science to that one. It's more about you just look at them, how they running, how do they feel, how do they finish their races. It's just all that little coaching cues you pick up over time, and you listen to what they say and all that good stuff. There is some stuff about, I watch their watches a lot, like what's their resting heart rates at, what's their heart rate on EC runs at, kind of giving me some cues to where we're sitting and where our health is at. But other than really nerding out on all that biology stuff that we like to go through, the rest of it's just a little feel. And right now I feel pretty good because they feel pretty good and they're not overtrained, and we're kind of got good legs under us.
Last year, the 3A boys race was the final race of the weekend. It's going to be the second race of the weekend, as you're going to go on Friday morning. How does that change the logistics of your trip out to Fort Dodge, if at all?
We get a lovely stay in a hotel in Webster City.
There we go.
that's what changes our logistics quite a bit. So we leave Thursday afternoon. It's more eating out, and that's always different. Hotel's different. So for us, that Wednesday night sleep at home is a big deal because there's no guaranteeing you're going to sleep great in a hotel room with your buddies on Thursday night. So that part's important. What happens on Wednesday, the rest of it, they're high school guys. They can get through whatever happens on Thursday night, and they'll be excited to run on Friday, and we'll get a little good food in on Friday morning and go perform.
And what's going to be the key to having as good of a day as you possibly can come Friday?
Oh, our key, and we've been doing the same thing all year. We're a team likes to get out. We got to get out in front of that curve. There is a curve. Looks like a bell curve for the runners at state meet. We got to be in the front side of that wave because then you can run a little freer. If you're in that mass of humanity, there's like 3 to 4 runners every second from about 17:10 to 17:30, and the times at state meet, you don't want to be with that group because you can't move. And we stay in front of that curve so we can open it up a little bit and run relaxed. We'll have a great performance, and we'll let the time stand for themselves, and the place will be what the place will be.
All right, Coach, congrats on another trip to Fort Dodge. Always fun talking to you this time of year. Here's to a great week of preparation and a great Friday for your team next week.
Thank you, Darren. We're very excited about our opportunity.
Brad Johansen, head coach of the Decorah boys for the 39th time. Decorah boys cross country heading to the state meet. The Waukon Indians boys cross country team is back at state for the 5th straight year. I believe, let's see here, looking at my notes, 29 times in school history. Head coach Tara Stein joining us to talk about the season that has been and get ready for Fort Dodge this coming weekend. And Terry, you look at this team, what has made this a successful group?
It starts with your senior leaders, the upperclassmen that have, kind of learned the ropes from the upperclassmen that have come before them, and to have, 3, upperclassmen, junior and 2 seniors leading the way, running 1 through 3 consistently throughout the season really sets the tone for everyone else. And it allows us to go out there and kind of approach things and try to run as strong as we can and run our race and, see where that's going to get us with a team finish at the end of each meet.
And obviously, after last year's season, you graduated a good group of seniors, but you mentioned those core 3 that have been your leaders throughout the year. How have they been able to bring others along and reach the level that you have this year?
They're a very goal-oriented group of leaders. And so I think when the underclassmen that maybe don't have as much experience can see the goals that they're setting, and not only for themselves individually, but how they want to see the team continue to grow and advance is very important. Last year we had, a strong group of seniors as well, as you mentioned, and, they set the tone, as I said before, for the guys younger than them and showed them the ropes. And so now this group, my front leading group of 3, definitely have taken that to heart, and they are following suit.
And of the kids that are going to be new to the state meet this year, how do you get to that connection with young people that might not have the experience coming into this season? How do you get that lack of experience? How do you turn that into belief and ultimately into performance?
Well, last year I was fortunate to have a couple of my underclassmen serve as alternates on our team that went down to state. And so they had the opportunity to basically train right alongside the 7 that were running, and you'd be able to take in that state meet atmosphere. And so they've been on the course, they've walked the course, they warmed up with the guys. And so now this year, after that leaves a little hunger in them, not being able to run that final meet last year, but now, hey, they've put in the time, they put in the hard work. They've kind of learned and kind of seen where that can get them. And now they're ready to kind of just be part of that group and see how they can add to this legacy that we got going here in Waukon.
And at Monticello last week, the top 4 teams were only separated by 22 points. How does running at a state qualifier like that get you ready ultimately for Fort Dodge?
We are, basically meet in and meet out all season long. In all of my years of being around Waukon cross country, we run against the toughest teams in the state. each and every week. And so being able to see the quality of runners that we do week in and week out, including at our state qualifier last week, it is huge. We just go out there, you run your race, you compete hard, and let your running do the talking.
And when you look at those top three individuals, I'll ask you to maybe break those guys down a little bit more. Isaac Reisinger has been that consistent, kind of low stick for you throughout the season. What makes Isaac successful?
Going back to what I said before with them being a very goal-oriented group, Isaac has definitely, had that goal set. Basically, when we finished last year, we wrapped up the season at state with our back-to-back fourth place finishes as a team. That hunger is there. And so knowing that we weren't finished yet, you get those guys thinking right away with goals. And so Isaac has some very lofty goals for himself. And he has been our low stick all year. He's consistently ran under 17 minutes. And hopefully we can see that he'll be able to, dig a little deeper at state on Saturday and see that time go a little bit lower yet.
And Caleb Helgerson was almost under that 17-minute mark at Monticello. What has made things click for Caleb this year?
Caleb is a hard worker. He's one that you can rely on to make sure that he's getting that work in and day out. And he has had a meet or two this season already where he has been under 17. So he and Brandon Leppert have been going back and forth between the 2 and 3 spot for us all season long. Seems like if one's a little off one night, the other one is right there to pick up the slack. And, they know where they want to be. They've got those goals set, and they continue to work hard and strive to get out there and get positioned for that first mile, so then they can be strong that middle and end section of their races, and just run their race, and hopefully that gets them that spot where we can see season's best PRs here as we wrap up the season on Saturday.
And you mentioned Brandon. He's in that good position of being an experienced kid, but also an underclassman. What has allowed him to emerge into those top three this year?
He seems to really thrive off of those two ahead of him. He's able to, tie right in with them, and he wants to be right there with them stride for stride. Still not quite as much experience as those other two, but he's really developing into a strong leader even as a junior. He puts in the work during practice. He's, committed to off-season training and doing the work in the spring that it takes to get us that much stronger for the upcoming fall season.
You touched on it with Isaac. He said right after the state meet last year, he set some pretty high goals for this year. Oftentimes with high school kids, they're hungry right after the state meet. Well, maybe sometimes a month goes by, those goals and what is required to achieve those goals maybe goes away a little bit. How does Isaac and the rest of your leaders keep everything right here as compared to making it a roller coaster?
Of course, at the end of the season, you are hungry. You're hungry for more. You got to that, that big final meet of the season, whether the state meet goes exactly as you had hoped or planned, or the goals that you set were reached or not. To have that fire right off the bat is very important. And then I kind of let a little time go, but not too much. You got to get them thinking already. All right, what are those goals for the next season? So then I share out goal sheets with the boys and say, hey, these are my goals for the team, and then break it down individually, share that out with the guys, and encourage them to fill in their preseason goal for the next season. Knowing that is a longer term goal, obviously then they have to be able to, set those shorter term goals to work towards that. And that would be, okay, if I'm not out for a winter sport, what kind of winter training do I need to put in place? Then as you work through the winter, you start keying on that spring season and getting out for track. And how can I help out not only the track team, how can I improve in my track season? And then how that's going to carry over then to summer training, which ties right into our camp and our season. And if they're willing to do that and continue to kind of touch on those stepping stones and set those additional goals along the way, that is huge with being able to work towards those bigger, loftier goals that we have for state this Saturday.
And what's it going to take to have as good of a day as you possibly can come Saturday?
Well, you already mentioned this, running against some pretty tough competition up here. And we've ran competitively with, the likes of Denver and Owine, who are ranked and have been ranked in the top 3 to 5 pretty much all season. Hopefully, having seen that competition and knowing kind of where we're at right now in relation to them, it would certainly be nice to go out there and run our best race on Saturday and see if we can't get a few Northeast Iowa teams to finish very high in the ranks.
All right. Hopefully you can maybe even end up on the deck come Saturday afternoon. Tara, always good catching up with you anytime, and especially this time of year. Congrats on a great season to this point. Hopefully it can even be that much greater come Saturday. Best of luck to your student athletes down in Fort Dodge.
Thank you so much, and I want to wish the rest of the teams here in the northeast corner of the state good luck at Fort Dodge on Saturday as well.
Tara Stein, head coach of the Waukon boys, back at state for the 5th straight year. For the first time since 2019, the Waukon girls cross-country team is back at Fort Dodge in the state meet. Tyler Scholl is their head coach. And Tyler, you look at the season as a whole, what's made this a successful group?
I think just began the summer, starting in June. A lot of the girls showed up to our summer runs and just put in those summer miles and lifting weights. And just all started paying off in September when the races started getting underway. So that was the fun part, especially when they got to see what places they're coming in at and how their times improved from last year.
How has this team's confidence improved throughout the course of the season?
I think the first couple ones, we kind of a young team. So the first couple ones, they're testing the waters a little bit. And then by Starmont, after winning that one, they got excited. And I think they realized that, hey, we can do this. We can see how far we can take our season. So.
And you mentioned quite a few young runners on their squad. How do you get them acclimated to high school cross country, first of all, and to what it takes to be successful in this sport?
Sure. It seems like their freshman year, a lot of them are just trying to learn, what the 5K distance is. We actually had 2 brand new runners to our squad this year. One of them was a junior. Her name was Elle Wilkins. But basically, just learning that 5K, getting the confidence, developing in it. And usually by sophomore year, they have confidence in themselves. And it's fun to see how their course PRs or their course best is what we track for them, develop over the season. And that's kind of key in building their confidence. So.
And one of your young runners, Miriam Downing, has really emerged here later on in the season. She won the Northeast Iowa Conference meet and had a top 10 finish at the state qualifier last week. What has allowed her to turn it on at the right time of year?
I think kind of like we said before, just testing those 5K waters, trying to test her limits to see what she can do. And then, luckily right around Southwind or conference time, she picked it up and dropped below 20 and got her school record. And I think that gave her the confidence boost that she needed heading into districts. So
you ended up with a 3rd place finish down at the state qualifier at Monticello, squeezing it out over Monticello by 2 points. When you have a race that close, it takes everybody involved to get that state qualifying position. What about the state qualifier at Monticello maybe got you ready for this week in Fort Dodge?
So for us, when we were looking at who was going to be in our district, having those 4 top 15 ranked teams was kind of a challenge for us. And we knew that in order to squeeze them out or to do our best, it relied a lot on our, I'd say our 4, 5, and 6 getting ahead of the number 5. And that's what seemed to help us in the end. And so with those girls too, we might not have someone who can run a 19 flat. Miriam does a great job, in terms of getting to 20 flat, at least for us. But I think our strength lies in that 3rd through 6 for us, and hopefully can get ahead of other people's number 5 or their even their number 4 to help us out a little bit.
And has that depth developed throughout the course of the season? And if so, how has that happened?
In terms of the depth part, I would say our 5, 6, and 7 really started picking up after our home meet, our walk-on meet. But we kind of knew our potential, at least for our front 3. right away. So like Claire Johnson, Bryce Stewart, and then Jalen Johannemeyer really pulled through for us at the end to help our team score, stay competitive.
What's the practice and training plan this week as you get ready for Saturday?
At this point, it's just refinement. So it's not getting in shape at this point. So just kind of making sure they're healthy, just sharpening their speed a little bit, and just making sure they're rested for Fort Dodge on Saturday. So
can you treat the state meet like any other meet, or is it enough of a big stage that there's maybe going to be a little bit more butterflies come Saturday as compared to a regular season meet?
Like I told the girls, it's just, when you get down there, just smile and just be thankful that you're down there. It's kind of just a once in a high school, once in a lifetime type of thing, just to run down there. So just to be happy and to be proud of your work that you put in this far in the season, I think will hopefully solve some of the butterflies. But yeah, in terms of approaching the meet, it's not like Southwind, which is lightning fast times, or even Monticello. We're kind of looking at our mile times right now, seeing how we can adjust it and making sure we don't go out too fast so we don't, kill ourselves by mile 2. So,
and as part of that, just kind of managing maybe that adrenaline rush for a lot of first timers at Fort Dodge, because I'd imagine there's the temptation to get out there quickly because you're probably pretty amped up to be at a state meet.
Yeah. And like this week, in terms of our workout, we're trying to do at least one of the parts is a mile at the pace we want to try to get at Fort Dodge. So just making sure they hit that and I get too excited because it's better to hit your first mile on pace and then go hunting rather than burn yourself out that first mile and be hunted. So we'll see.
And what's it going to take to have as good of a day as you possibly can come Saturday?
Just getting people at starting line, making sure they're healthy, making sure they're ready to go, hydrated, sleeping well. Just those things. But beyond that point, just the refinement time now.
All right, Tyler, congrats on getting to the state meet. And you're just hoping you got a good week of refinement, practice, and training, and as good of a day as you possibly can on Saturday. We wish you and your team best of luck.
Hey, thanks, Darren.
Tyler Scholl, head coach of the Waukon girls, back at the state cross-country meet for the first time since 2019. The Crestwood Cadet girls will be making their way down to Fort Dodge this weekend, qualifying for the state cross-country meet for the first time since 2018. Head coach Karen Steffen joining us. And Karen, looking at the group that you've gotten to work with this year, what has made this a successful and a fun group to be around?
Well, first of all, thank you, Darren, for having me here today. Our team this year is mainly led by, some of our upperclassmen. Our senior group, Lainey Peter and Alexis Pankow, are two of our varsity runners from that senior class. But we also have a couple others, Erica Olendek and Blair Cummings also play a huge leadership role for us. All 4 of those seniors have been a part of the program for many years now, and they really kind of take the other kids under their wing and show them the ropes, lead them in practice and lead them at the cross country meets. So just great leadership has been a key for us this year.
And Lainey Peter has definitely made her mark. She's been down to Fort Dodge before and has been a consistent low stick for you for really a couple of years now. What makes Lainey click?
Just her work ethic. She's a tough kid. She can go out and she'll run that same pace the entire race. Doesn't seem to slow. Just keeps that same steady pace chugging away. Just a tough kid, hard worker. She leads all our practices. She mainly works out with the boys at our practices. So just having her toughness has really gotten her to where she is today.
And you look at how she's been able to bring some people along. You mentioned the senior group have done a good job of leading the way. That just doesn't happen. It's got to have the right kids leading the way. How has it happened with this group?
I think just some of the leadership qualities that they have. They're able to, they communicate well. They're fun. They like to have fun. And that really brings other people in and encourages others to follow them and emulate how they behave and how they act and how they practice. So just some of those qualities that those kids have in general, not just as athletes, but as students also.
And you went down to Owine for the state qualifier last week. You ended up tied for second with Forest City on that end of things, but you had a better sixth runner, so you ended up getting the second place position from them, even though they were both qualifying positions. What about running at Owine last week? How did that running at that state qualifier kind of springboard you to the opportunity you got this weekend?
Sure. Looking at some of our other varsity runners that ran on last week, Jaylee Vobert is a junior. She was one spot away from qualifying last year as a sophomore, and there wasn't any way she was going to let that happen again this year. So she ran her tail off for that race, placing 13th and qualifying individually. But also our next couple runners, Lexus Dolman, a freshman, she's running very well. She's really come on the last half of the season. Just a great, tough kid. And then we have Ava Daly, Mia Shelton, and Taylor Reese running for our sophomore group. And the three of them pack so well together. They run the whole race together. They start to separate a little bit at the end. Ava, really kind of turned it on, caught right up to Alexis there at the state qualifier. And then Mia and Taylor, finishing fifth and fifth and sixth for us. Like you said, having Taylor beat out Forest City's number 6 girl was huge for us. But it kind of began with our third, fourth, and fifth runners as well, being ahead of their fourth runner. So, and then Taylor ran a PR personal record at that meet on last week, and so did our number 7 girl, Alexis Pankow, who's been steadily improving all season long. Also had her personal best time at that meet last week also.
You've described a lot of your runners as tough. How has that toughness been instilled?
Our practices, I guess, aren't always that easy. I don't know. We just kind of have that mentality that cross-country kids are just tough. Our practices are tougher than, a lot of other sports maybe. During the track season, I don't really have to do a lot of, instructing on mental toughness. They have it built into them in the track season because of some of our tougher workouts that we have. So I think they just kind of learn it as they go from, when they start cross country.
And when you have this really relatively new group going down to Fort Dodge this week, of course, Laney's been there before. Are you going to rely on Laney for some of those leadership qualities to get the others ready for something they haven't experienced, but Laney has?
Definitely. Laney will be a great leader for them to follow. She knows she's been down there not only as a runner, but also as a spectator for a couple of years. So she knows kind of the atmosphere, she knows the course, she knows, just the routine of getting there and getting warmed up and getting mentally set and mentally prepared for the day. So we'll really lean on her. We are relatively young. We have, of our 7 girls that are going, 5 of them are underclassmen. So we only have 2 seniors and a junior going, but relatively young group of kids. So we will really lean on Laney having the experience, having been down there before.
Can you treat the state meet like any other meet?
I would say yes and no. I think we will prepare for it the way we have for every meet all year long. Our practices this week won't look a whole lot different. We'll do a little speed work. We'll do a little, some light distance work. We'll do some mental preparation, some goal setting. But the excitement of Saturday and running on a Saturday is much different. We won't have school all day long. So there are some things that we will treat the same, but in reality, the kids know that it's kind of a big deal to be there. So the nerves will probably play a part. A little bit of anxiety might set in, but trying to minimize some of that pressure that's on them and just looking at it everybody's going to run a 5K. It's still a 5K, just like it's been all year.
And if kids have nerves going to the state meet, that means they care and they want to do well, right?
Exactly. You know, they're super excited about going. You know, it's been something that we've kind of realized that we had the potential all year long. And to see it actually come to fruition has been super exciting. So kind of trying to bottle that excitement up and use it to you know, have a great race. And you know, just have the enthusiasm for Saturday. It's been a great you know, something to anticipate and look forward to.
And of course, your boys program going to be represented by Nathan Ahern as well. He's had an outstanding season this fall, really had an outstanding career when you really get down to it. What makes Nathan click?
He is, you know, he's just a hardworking kid. I've talked about that each, you know, with the girls team too, but he's determined. His speed has been a key part in how well he's been doing at each of the meets. You know, he can be, you know, 50 meters back going into the last mile, and I'll still put my money on him that he's gonna take that race. But you know, just his determination. He's really brought his times down throughout the season, and he's kind of getting locked in. He's in his zone. He's ready to go. He's set and he's focused.
All right. What's it going to take to have as good of a day possible on Saturday for your competitors?
I think just like last week, we want to go in looking at finishing the season with each of their individual bests. If they can do that or be close to their best times of the year, have a, you know, try to run at ease, not be watching their watches, and just have a good feel good run for the race. And if they can set some goals for running kind of a PR for the day, if we place high as a team or not, you know, that'll happen if it's supposed to. If not, then we at least can say we did our best.
All right, Karen, congrats on getting to the state meet on the girls' side as a team, and congrats to Nathan for qualifying as well. Here's to a great week of preparation. Best of luck to you Saturday in Fort Dodge.
All right, thank you.
Karen Steffen, the cross-country coach at Crestwood, the girls back there for the first time since 2018, and Nathan Ahern back there again as well. The South Wayne girls are back at the state meet. Fifth straight appearance for them, and since they went to a forced class system, it's their 12th appearance at the state meet. Coaches Kevin Kearney and Scott Conway joining us, and let's start with you, Kevin. What has made this a successful season, a successful group for you?
I'd say probably the big thing right now has kind of just been perseverance a little bit. We've had, seems like kind of every week we've had either illness or injury or, you know, just various things kind of out of our control coming up. And, you know, so it's kind of been a little bit of a struggle with the girls a little bit, just because we haven't really been 100% from one week to the next. But they've also still kind of managed to still improve overall every week. And, you know, when someone wasn't able to run, we've had other people step up and fill in those places. And so hopefully we got one more shot at getting as close to 100% as we can get. And it seems like everybody's doing okay. So hopefully we can, you know, get a chance to run a little more full force here.
Scott, what do you credit that perseverance to?
You know, I think in a large part, it's like any other sport where, you know, you get dinged up and you have people sit out. But I mean, these girls have seen it before. They've watched other upperclassmen fight through and continue to persevere and stay focused on the goal. And so, you know, they kind of learned from other people, and they also know that, you know, it's part of the game, and you just got to control the things you control and not worry about the rest of it.
And Kevin, you look at the ones that will be towing the line coming up on Saturday, quite a bit of state meet experience amongst that group, and a few newcomers trickled in amongst that group. How does having state meet experience perhaps help you when you get ready for the race on Saturday?
Yeah, it does. Actually, I kind of thought of this offhand the other day. We had 10 girls out, and all 10 of those girls have run at either the state track meet or the state cross country meet before. So I think the biggest thing is just sort of kind of being used to a little bit of the routine of it, where especially once you're down at the meet, it's a bigger venue. Everything's kind of further away. It takes a little longer to do stuff. So the fact that you sort of know where to go, when you're supposed to be there, and you kind of you're not trying to figure out how to do a warm up down at the state meet for the first time, is just actually kind of, just the little things like that can help make it, like a coach always likes to say, hey, this is just another meet. But really, in a lot of ways, it isn't just another meet, because there's a lot of new things. And so if you're used to some of those already, that carries a little more weight in terms of, just trying to stay focused on the racing part of it when you're not worried about everything else.
And Scott, it sounds pretty simple, but anything that can get cleared out of the area to allow your young women and young men to just focus on racing is probably a positive thing, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that definitely is. And like you said, it's, you have to be the starting line way sooner. They stop the run outs way sooner. I mean, it is just different, and anything that you can do to simplify things and dumb things down a little bit goes a long ways to kids feeling confident and ready to go.
Kevin, looking back at North Lane at the state qualifier last week, very competitive race, basically 7 points separating the top three teams, and you guys were able to get in the top two. What did having a good competition like that, how does that perhaps get you ready for Fort Dodge this Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of have that, just to keep the, return the focus to being ready to compete when that gun goes off. And we kind of suspected going in a little bit. We knew that Cascade and Maquoketa Valley were good teams, and we knew they were very close to each other. And so we hadn't really seen either of them, though. And, so we just knew that those three teams, including ourselves, we were all going in with the idea that we're going to qualify for state. And so anytime you have, that sort of dynamic where you have multiple teams and there's not enough spots, it starts to really elevate the performance. Maquoketa Valley and Cascade both ran exceptional meets and competed really hard. And, it was really almost kind of a little bit of a triangular in a sense, because between the two teams, the three teams, we had kind of the vast majority. Once you pull the individuals out of the scoring, there weren't a lot of other kids there in the upper, top 25 or so runners. So, they definitely gave us everything and more that we wanted to deal with.
Got this program has been to state now 5 straight years, a very good history of qualifying through the state qualifying meets. How much of it amongst your program has been instilling a standard and getting the young men and young women to realize what that standard is, and that being the goal at the beginning of the year and also at this time of year?
I don't think that comes from us as much as it kind of comes from the kids themselves. They have an expectation of doing their best and becoming their best. And we've been fortunate enough to have groups of kids the last however many years that had both the ability and the work ethic and the desire. So I don't necessarily know that it comes from us. I just think that kids see it and they want to emulate it and they want to be a part of it and they want to continue it. And they're the ones that do all the work. We're just fortunate enough to go along for the ride.
Kevin, how do you approach this week from a training and a practice standpoint to get your kids ready for Saturday?
From a training standpoint, for all practical purposes, we do exactly the same thing we've done all year long. We just do less of it and do it a little faster, probably. And, just try and keep them fresh and keep them sort of fast at this time of year. It's not like you're going to get in better shape or anything like that. Mentally, I think a lot of it is, just kind of, and we're kind of fortunate again, we have a lot of experience on the team and stuff. So, keeping the kids focused on competing. It can be a little overwhelming at the state meet with the number of runners that are down there. They're all good runners. Almost all the teams spend most of the year, running against, smaller numbers of competitive athletes. So, if you're used to being in 20th place, you better get used to being in 60th place down there. And if you can't handle that mentally, I think that's where a lot goes wrong for a lot of kids, is they're just not used to being in the, feeling mentally like they're getting beat, even if they're running really good. So I think that's kind of usually our number one focus is just, hey, when you're in 60th place, you're doing way better than you think you're doing. So you better, find a way to get 58th or, instead of giving up. And,
obviously the girls have qualified as a team. Southwind boys going to be represented with Hugh Conway as well. Scott, what's made it a successful season for Hugh?
He did quite a bit of work over the summer, and he and most of the freshman boys, they've had pretty big goals. And I think, just thinking about Thursday, for such a young team, we had a lightning and thunder delay, and it set the boys race back an hour. And I thought for 5 freshmen and a couple of upperclassmen, Lucas has only been out for a couple years. They handled that very well. They didn't let it get to them. They didn't let it bother them. They felt that, it was to our advantage, quite honestly, because we told them things go wrong. Things don't go the way you want them to go. And the teams that can accept that and handle it and deal with it are the ones that compete well. And, they tied for 4th place. We weren't very far from 3rd place. And for a group of young guys and 2 upperclassmen, that was pretty impressive.
And piggybacking on what Scott just said, Kevin, you mentioned this team has had a lot of perseverance throughout the year. You've had some obstacles with injuries and illnesses, but you've risen to that occasion. Do you feel, knowing the fact that the state meet is going to have some ups and downs, as you always touch on, you feel you got a group that can handle those ups and downs to the best of their ability?
Yeah, I think so. It's, again, something most of them have. Like Scott had said earlier, they've either personally done this before, where they personally have had some ups and downs that they had to get through, or they've, got to participate on teams over the last, 2, 3, 4 years where other team members have been able to do that. And we do tell them that going in that, not everybody's going to have a perfect day for themselves. So if you're not having a perfect day, it's your job to still make it the best day you can, because that's what's going to happen to every single team down there. It's not unique to ours or somebody. No one's, it's very rare that a team goes down there and it just all goes perfect. It just almost never happens.
And Scott, what's going to take to have as good of a day as you possibly can for the kids towing the line on Saturday in Fort Dodge?
I think, just informing them, telling them what the state meet's going to look like. And again, like Kevin said earlier, we go against some pretty tough teams. We've seen Waukon, we've seen Decorah girls. We've competed against some pretty tough competition. We go to the Luther meet and our kids know that, you can be in 100th place and be racing very, very, very well. So the fact that our kids know that and are prepared for that, I think that's what really is going to help us, step to the line and be prepared to do the job that they need to do. And we tell them all the time that races break down to where you have a group of 20 or 30 people that you are racing against. Whatever that is, if you're racing 80th to 100th, get as close to 80th as you can. And so our kids know that. And so they go in there and they try and win their race.
And final question for you. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. Obviously, we want the attention on the student athletes, but Coach Kearney, this is going to be your final state cross country meet. Are you thinking about that at all heading into this week, or just focused on doing the job at hand?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure I will a little bit, but yeah, I'm glad we get to finish down there and stuff like that, and yeah, it'll be fun. I'm more excited for that the kids get to go down there. I mean, I've been to a bunch of them, so I don't know how many I've been to, but it's been a lot. So one more or one less for me personally is maybe not the end of the world, but for them, where they only get a chance to maybe experience it a couple times in their whole life, if even that, it's always fun to see them get to end with the goals they set for themselves and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be it's been quite a few years for sure.
All right, Kevin, we appreciate you and Scott for joining us once again. Always fun to talk to you guys this time of year. As Scott so eloquently put it, he's not talking to me at this time of year earlier this year. But congrats on a great season to this point. Hopefully it even ends as good as it possibly can come Saturday. Best of luck to you and your student athletes at Fort Dodge.
Well, thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Southwind coaches Scott Conway and Kevin Kearney as we get set for the state cross country meet this weekend in Fort Dodge. Hey, thank you to our guest on the program, and thank you to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust, and we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching our town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.